Part 26. Global Copy, My Talent is Called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 251. What is this old man? It's the enemy. What does the enemy need from us? Definitely not. So Luzioki shook her head like a rattle. If I don't give it, I won't give it. I'll make you mad. He also made a face as he said, Liluoluo. The old man's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. His mouth was split open, countless fangs sprouted out, and pitch-black nails grew out of his hands. His whole person became terrifying. I'm going to kill you. The old man's voice was like the secret words of an evil ghost emerging from under the nine netherworld, revealing something strange and gloomy. He rushed towards Luzioki, completely ignoring the sword energy surrounding Luzioki. Countless sword energy passed through the old man's body, but did not cause any harm to him. Obviously, the sword energy, which can break any buff state, has nothing to do with this guy. His body seemed to be in a state of nothingness. He could see it but couldn't touch it. The old man stretched out his hands that became like ghost claws and grabbed Luzioki fiercely. Luzioki's heart rang with alarm bells, and she quickly turned sideways to avoid it. Hi! Luzioki's clothes were torn apart by the strange black aura brought out by the old man. Fortunately, he escaped in time and was not injured. Luzioki's heart skipped a beat. I'm knocking, it's a shame. I couldn't hit him, but he hit me easily. No wonder the guide says that the old man who has not obtained the mission props in the holy courtyard cannot be killed. There's no need to fight this. Luzioki frowned. But, do you really want to give that broken godhead to the old man? Luzioki felt something was wrong. He was unwilling to hand over the props because he always felt that if he gave the broken godhead to the old man, it might cause greater trouble, even more terrifying than the current situation. The old man's ability to ignore attacks seems to be a strange power of rules, which is why it is so weird and exaggerated. If it is like this, Luzioki thought in her mind and came up with an idea. He turned back a dozen steps and said with a smile, Old man, is this 5-color divine stone what you need? Or this broken godhead? The old man's eyes were fixed on the shining golden gem in Luzioki's hand. His aura suddenly exploded and he screamed, Give it to me. Yo! If you're so honest, I'll give them all to you. Luzioki's eyes flashed. A handful of 5-color divine stones appeared in his hand. Watch the move. Nuwa mends the sky. Countless 5-color sacred stones turned into streams of light and headed straight for the old man. The old man didn't care at first, but instead rushed towards Luzioki to snatch the broken godhead from his other hand. As a result, as soon as the stream of light transformed from the 5-color divine stone came into contact with the old man, his expression immediately changed. You must know that the effect of breaking all kinds of magic that comes with Luzioki's magic power is only obtained by refining a few 5-color sacred stones. And this can already break the effect of Medusa's petrified eyes. So how obvious is the effect of the dispersion law contained in a whole 5-color sacred stone? The old man's appearance gave the answer. Each 5-color divine stone was like a red-hot iron sinking deeply into the old man's body. He let out a miserable scream, and the black energy all over his body seemed to be completely inspired by invisible power, constantly overflowing from the wound. Because of the effect of everything is allowed and the characteristics of extreme swordsmanship, all passives are triggered. Everything is allowed plus flying swordsmanship plus Hell's Curse plus Ge swordsmanship plus God's left hand. That picture is so beautiful that I dare not look at it. It works. Luzioki's eyes lit up, and he took out another handful of 5-color sacred stones with his backhand, and said, It is everyone's responsibility to care for the elderly. Uncle, you are lucky. Today 5-color divine stone is on sale. If you want one, I will give it to you for free. A handful, countless streams of light flew out and hit the stiff old man. 2. countless five-color sacred stones turned into flowing light again. 3 handfuls, the last handful was thrown out by Luzaoki. The old man's scream stopped, and his whole body seemed to be melted, and began to turn into black energy and begin to dissipate. So this 999 plus key should be useless to Luzaoki. In addition, there is a pile of dim golden fragments. But it was not the one that the boss dropped after his death, but the key that the uncle gave him at the beginning that only had a quarter-hour limit. Such a conscientious businessman, family members, please hurry up. Bah! This uncle won't let me live in peace even if he dies. Divine Fragment. When the Holy Court dungeon, which was originally a difficult level, came to him, it suddenly increased to an unbelievable level of difficulty. As the key emitted a faint light, the door of the Holy Court opened with a bang. Luzaoki raised her legs and stepped into the Holy Court again. This time, the old man was unable to ignore this powerful attack, and was directly washed away by the sword energy into powder, completely dissipating between heaven and earth. He seemed to have a bug that caused him to be stuck in the final clearance screen and unable to get out. That's right, this thing has been sold to 999 plus by Luzaoki's parcel list. But at this moment, the gate of the Holy Courtyard is tightly closed, and it seems that there is no key to enter it. Luzaoki raised his eyebrows. Luzaoki searched for a long time, but the customs clearance and settlement screen did not appear. Click. Luzaoki muttered, pointing her right hand at the same time, and struck out with sword energy again. But why did this mission prop explode from the old man's body? Crackling. Luzaoki turned on the automatic pickup function, put the golden fragments into the package, and took it out to take a look. A bright key fell to the ground. Quest props, please give it to the gatekeeper. Luzaoki. Luzaoki frowned slightly, and after thinking for a moment, walked in the opposite direction. This is exactly the mission prop mentioned in the guide, Godhead Fragment. Faced with this situation, Luzaoki smiled and took out a key with his backhand. However, the time limit of this key cannot be superimposed through multiple uses. Each time you enter the Holy Court, only one key is consumed, and you can only enter the Holy Court for a quarter of an hour. It's the Holy Court. But at this moment, in order to verify his conjecture, the key worked wonders. And because Luzaoki didn't follow the routine and didn't take the ordinary path, the wooden house that would appear after killing the boss at the end did not appear. Luzaoki was puzzled. It seems that it's not that the strategy is inaccurate, but that there is indeed an abnormality in the copy of his strategy this time. A huge building gradually appeared in front of Luzaoki's eyes. Also falling along with it were countless five-color sacred stones emitting scorching glow. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 252. The same maze, revisiting the old place. Luzaoki's expression was very calm at the moment. He did not move without authorization. Instead, he took a deep breath and put his hands to his mouth like a trumpet. Saipan. Come out. A loud sound echoed in the maze. Not long after, a rumbling sound was heard in the distance. An abnormally burly Tauren rushed out, roaring as he ran, "Weak adventurer, I am the Minotaur. Answer me 3 questions, and I will guide you in the right direction, otherwise you will turn into." Then it saw Luzaoki, who was standing calmly with his arms folded. Minotaur. The Tauren was startled, and his knees weakened and he fell to the ground. The huge inertia made him slide all the way to Luzaoki. The Minotaur did not hesitate, bowed his head and said, "Dear adventurer, the humble Minotaur salutes you. What are your instructions for calling me?" Luzaoki. Good guy. However, he had no intention of embarrassing this guy. He took out the divine fragment from the package and said calmly, "Do you recognize this thing?" The Tauren looked at the fragment in Luzaoki's hand respectfully, lowered his head and said in a low voice, This is a treasure left by the gods, and it is used to unlock the seal. The evidence to unlock the seal? Luzioki's heart skipped a beat and she said in a deep voice, explain it and make it clear. The Tauran shook his head, I don't know the specific situation very well. I only know that the invasion of evil spirits caused Ragnarok, and all the gods fell into sleep. The world is occupied by evil spirits, and all living creatures are controlled by it. Before falling asleep, the king of gods ordered Hephaestus to create the last piece of pure land, and then resurrected the 10 most terrifying monsters in the world to guard this piece of pure land. The evil spirits are isolated from the pure land. Hephaestus, the legendary god of fire, one of the 12 main gods of Olympus. A pure land was created, the evil spirits were kept out. Luzioki seemed to understand something, and said with a strange expression, are you one of the 10 kinds of monsters that were resurrected? The Minotaur raised his head and replied, that's right. I am in the labyrinth, with power second only to Hercules and the ability to be infinitely resurrected. It is the first line of defense to guard the pure land. Just you? Luzioki shook his head slightly. Even if you were resurrected 10,000 times, it would only be a matter of me returning to the clan with 10,000 swords. However, he ignored the Tauran's wife's behavior of selling melons, and instead asked, what will happen when the seal is released? The Tauran shook his head slightly, I don't know, I only know that something terrible will happen. It paused and continued, but this fragment alone cannot break the seal. At least 12 fragments and another gem must be collected. Luzioki's heart skipped a beat. He was silent for a moment, took back the fragments, and took out the broken godhead, isn't this the gem you are talking about? The Minotaur's eyes widened and he trembled, no, that's right, it's this gem. It looked at Luzioki with eyes full of fear, opened its mouth, but stopped talking. Luzioki understood. He looked at the frightened Tauran and said angrily, what are you looking at? Have you never seen such a handsome adventurer? Take me out of the maze, quickly. Minotaur. Hiss. As soon as she walked into the crypt, Medusa came up to her with a look of joy on her face. She stared at Luzioki with bright eyes, and her low and sexy voice was slightly hoarse. You are back. There was a trace of blush on her face, as if caused by excitement, and the snake hair on her head was twisting uncontrollably. Luzioki's scalp felt numb at the sight, and he quickly stopped her from approaching, took out the gem and said, Medusa, do you know what will happen after the seal is lifted? Medusa's eyes were full of resentment, and her hoarse voice sounded in the crypt, the gods will wake up from their slumber and continue the war of the gods 1500 years ago. The gods wake up and continue fighting? Who to hit? Luzioki knew something in her mind and let out a long breath. Then he asked, then do you know how to get golden apple? Medusa looked at Luzioki, was silent for a moment, and whispered, follow me. The two left the crypt and walked an unknown distance until they finally came to an orchard. The surrounding plants were all exotic flowers and plants that Luzioki didn't recognize. In the center of the orchard is a towering tree whose branches are covered with sparkling things. That's right, it's golden apple. I knock. Luzioki was shocked. Could this tree be the golden apple tree? But hasn't it been chopped down by some divine axe that cuts down all trees? Luzioki's thoughts were a little confused. But the next moment, he understood. Because he saw a monster under the tree. It was a monster with a lizard-like body, hundreds of long necks, and various heads on its necks. Yes, he is the king of beasts, the 100-headed dragon Lotan. Each of his heads is different, some look like antelopes, lions, tigers, bears, dragons. Each head was screaming continuously, as if they were arguing with other heads. Obviously, this monster that was killed in the records has also been resurrected. Then it can be explained that the golden apple tree it protects is safe and sound. Obviously it was also because of the power of the gods that they appeared in the holy court again. Can it communicate? Luzioki pointed at the roaring radon in the distance and asked Medusa beside him. Medusa shook her head, and her hoarse voice sounded again, its thinking is chaotic. Every head has a different idea, and you can't convince 100 heads. All right. This dragon has quite a personality, with 100 heads each with its own ideas. One word, absolutely. Luzioki sighed. The next moment, the gorgeous sword light reappeared. Loden's furious roar was deafening, and the sound waves of various frequencies made people's blood boil, their heads became dizzy, and they almost fainted. Luzioki's expression remained unchanged. His powerful magic power had blocked out the annoying sound waves, and he didn't even blink. The sword rose and fell, and strange heads fell to the ground, with blood splattering everywhere. Radon's roar gradually became lower and weaker, and finally disappeared. The huge headless dragon corpse fell to the ground. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 253. In the orchard, blood flowed like a river. The dead monster did not turn into white light and disappear. The huge corpse lay under the golden apple tree, and even the body that had lost control of its head did not lose its vitality immediately. The powerful body of the 100-headed dragon possesses indescribable vitality. Even if it is hit in a vital part and its blood is almost drained, it is still twitching and twisting at this moment. However, the information displayed by Luzioki Eye of True Knowledge has proven that this mythical monster is completely dead, and the current twisting is just an instinctive reaction of the body. This also further proved Luzioki's guess. Sure enough, this resurrected monster has not been. He couldn't wait to fly to the golden apple tree, and with a wave of his hand, he picked the golden apples from the tree with powerful magic. After receiving the golden apple, Luzioki took a closer look. Golden apple. Dash. Detailed information cannot be displayed. Obviously, this is a treasure that has not yet been transformed into a prop. Luzioki tried to put it into the parcel column, but failed, which was enough to prove his conjecture. Therefore, he has no way to superimpose this thing. But this does not trouble Luzioki. He took out a storage ring, waved his sleeves, and the golden apples on the tree fell one after another, being pulled by the magic power into the ring. After receiving the golden apple, Luzioki frowned. Because the golden apple he wants is not this golden apple. The golden apple that Wan Yanran described to him has obviously been transformed by the copy into a prop that can only be used by adventurers, and the golden apple in his hand now. To put it nicely, it's called a treasure, to put it more directly, it's called a fruit. If he clears the dungeon according to the regular dungeon strategy process, he may be able to obtain the golden apple that is converted into a prop. I don't know what the difference is between the prop golden apple and the golden apple that has not been converted into a prop. Luzioki thought for a while, picked up an apple and took a bite. Click. The apple looks like it has a metallic texture, but is unexpectedly sweet and delicious. Luzioki dazzled it in a few seconds. When the golden apple entered his stomach, it immediately turned into a warm current that spread throughout Luzioki's body. Luzioki closed her eyes and felt it. This power seems to be transforming his body and has good benefits for his soul. I just can't feel the specific effect. With his current strength, this small golden apple would be of minimal help to him. So when the warm current dissipated, he didn't feel any obvious changes in himself. The only thing that can be confirmed is that the benefits brought by golden apples are positive and mild and harmless. Sensitive skin can also be used, ahem, Luzioki means that ordinary people can also take it. Luzioki took a breath and felt a little relieved. Looking at the giant tree in front of me, the expression on his face was a bit regretful. It's also because he doesn't have enough space to store the ring. Otherwise, it would be impossible to keep this treasure that can produce golden apples here. Rustling. Medusa twisted her snake tail and crawled under the tree. Luzioki glanced at her and thought to herself, no wonder the ancients always liked to call that charming waste the water snake's waste. It's one thing except that it's thin, but it's really deadly when twisted. Medusa looked at Luzioki with a somewhat complicated look in her eyes, and said in a low and hoarse voice, "Are you leaving?" Luzioki paused. His purpose of staying here has been achieved, so naturally he has to leave. Although Luzioki's heart skipped a beat after saying these words, and when she saw Medusa's expression, she realized that she had gotten into trouble. Because he knew that once he left, the two of them would never have the chance to see each other again. It turns out that this holy courtyard is a special treasure. What he saw was definitely not this daring witch who dared to kiss him. 1500 years ago, the man behind the scenes who had mastered the power of copies invaded the world where the gods lived. I feel like I have become a scumbag, throwing away others after taking advantage of them. This treasure is called Pure Land by them. Even if Luzioki enters this holy court instance again. Seeing her disappointed expression, Luzioki felt a little complicated. She looked at Luzioki expectantly and said, "Yes, is it okay? I can't leave unless you take it with you." Somehow, Luzioki blurted out, "Do you want to come with me?" The gods were retreating steadily in the face of this power that exceeded the limits of the world, and the entire world was completely lost. Seeing her like this now, Luzioki felt inexplicably guilty. As for why he fell into a deep sleep, Luzioki had very little information and could only make random guesses. And without her guidance, he would never have been able to find the golden apple tree so easily. Combining the information previously obtained from the Minotaur's Minotaur, Luzioki has pieced together part of the truth. Medusa suddenly laughed. It's just that Medusa was of great help to him after all. Not to mention that he used his petrification ability to help him deal with the giant monster Kraken, allowing him to successfully obtain the mission props within a limited time. After smiling, she slowly lowered her head and sighed in despair, "It's a pity. Although I also want to leave here, the shackles have bound me to the place where the gods sleep. Either the gods have consumed too much power and have not recovered it, so they need to sleep to regain their power. This treasure seems to be particularly awesome, and there is really no way for evil spirits to invade it. Obviously, it means the land that has not been invaded by evils, the last pure land." Medusa's eyes suddenly lit up. Just looking at this monster with a gorgeous face, the words goodbye couldn't come out of his mouth. Luzioki raised her eyebrows, "If you don't give it a try, how do you know I can't take it away?" But he had no intention of going back and nodded affirmatively. This smile is like a spring breeze, and 100 flowers bloom. As a man, once a word goes out, it is difficult to follow it. At the last moment, the king of the gods ordered Hephaestus, the god of fire, to create a very awesome treasure. From her words, Luzioki understood something. If you want to say that he fell in love with this monster, that's impossible. This is where the gods sleep. The gods resurrected 10 monsters to guard this pure land, while they themselves fell into a deep sleep. Either they want to condense their power in the pure land through sleep to resist the invasion of evil spirits. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 254. It is precisely because of this that the gods now have no power to resist the evil spirits and can only remain asleep. So they are afraid that the seal of this pure land will be unlocked. This means that the pure land can no longer stop the evil from invading them. Since the evil demons have no way to enter the pure land, they can only use others to get in and obtain key props to unlock the pure land seal. That's right, it's the broken Godhead and fragments of Godhead in Luzioki's hands. This immediately explains why the old man outside is desperately trying to get it, while the monsters inside the holy court are obviously preventing others from entering. Especially the closer you get to the statue of the goddess, the more exaggerated the force of the stop is. There's just one thing I can't explain here. That's why the props obtained by Luzaoki and others are different. What others obtained were fragments of Godhead, but when it came to Luzaoki, it became fragments of Godhead with nightmare-level difficulty. Moreover, these two things were obtained from the statue of the goddess. Judging by their names, you can tell that they are definitely related to each other. But why do the Torans say that when they come together, they will break the seal of the gods and something terrible will happen? Luzaoki shook her head slightly. Her mind was numb and confused, and she couldn't figure it out at all, so she simply put this matter aside for now. He turned back and asked Medusa, "Do you know how to take away this holy courtyard?" Medusa looked at him with eyes that were as gentle as water dripping from her eyes, and her voice was hoarse and soft. "We need to find the 12 lost fragments of the divine head. Use them as an opportunity to activate the Pure Land. But after the creation of this artifact, autonomous consciousness has been born. Even if you activate it, you cannot control its actions. As for whether it is willing to follow you, that depends on whether you two are compatible." Luzaoki looked strange. Isn't this a coincidence? The dead old man just exploded 12 divine fragments for him. To be precise, there are now 999 plus divine fragments. "I do," Luzaoki replied without hesitation. "Where can I activate the Pure Land?" Medusa was a little surprised and looked at Luzaoki. But she still chose to believe Luzaoki without hesitation. "Follow me." Rustling. Her huge snake body crushed the exotic flowers and plants of the orchard. One person and one monster soon arrived in a snowstorm. In this vast expanse, endless wind and snow swept everything. Medusa closed her eyes, raised her head and screamed. The sound traveled far and even caused a small avalanche. But as soon as the avalanche took shape, Luzaoki slashed it with his sword and turned it into nothing. Soon a small black dot appeared in the sky, as if a flying monster was approaching here quickly. With Luzaoki's eyesight, she could only see clearly that the thing in the sky had a pair of falcon-like wings, a slender body and a long tail. The monster seemed to have seen Medusa on the ground and did not dare to fall down easily. It seemed to be afraid that Medusa's ability would turn it into stone. It kept hovering in the sky, and then roared like a lion. Medusa listened to its roar, then continued to neigh. The two monsters seemed to be communicating in a way that even Luzaoki didn't know. Medusa exchanged a few words with the monster, and the monster in the sky fell into silence. After a while, Medusa seemed a little impatient and roared. The elf climbed up to the Holy Grail with great difficulty, sat on the wall of the cup, crossed his legs, and said impatiently, "At, you in #@%. Chimera. She is about 10 centimeters tall, with a slender body, a chubby little face, a pair of cute big light golden eyes, and a pair of wings as thin as cicada wings that stick closely to her back. Or what will happen to them? Have no idea." The object quickly fell down. Luzaoki raised his hand and rolled the object into his hand. Only then did he realize that it was a cup made entirely of gold, with mysterious patterns engraved on it. "Why do I not believe it so much? If you really have the ability to take it away, you're the one they're waiting for." Medusa was also aware of this problem and said gently to Luzaoki, "The divine language it speaks cannot be understood by just hearing it. You have to use your mind to feel its meaning. Can they see my destiny? It seems to be urging something." No need for Medusa to say anything, Luzaoki also knew what to do. Luzaoki doubtfully probed out his perception ability and listened carefully to the elf's language. The monster dropped a shiny golden object, then quickly raised its flying height and disappeared from Luzaoki's sight. Body language? "I can't understand it, I don't understand what it's saying at all." Medusa seemed unwilling to mention this monster more, so she just said it lightly, then opened her eyes and looked at Luzaoki tenderly. Luzaoki seemed to hear a cute female voice, like a little loli who had just woken up and stretched her body. Luzioki had already put away only the last piece. He paused and suddenly thought of a question. Medusa shook her head. Perhaps the goddess of fate saw this happening a long time ago, so they created this pure land. A faint golden light lit up, and the Holy Grail got rid of Luzioki's hands, floating in the air without relying on any strength. Luzioki. He took out 12 fragments of the Godhead, put them one by one into the grooves of the cup, and asked casually, "What was that in the sky just now?" "If the Holy Court, well, the pure land you call it, is willing to leave with me, what about the God sleeping inside?" Luzioki. Put the divine fragment on the Holy Grail and you can awaken the consciousness of the pure land. This is an elf. Do you think too highly of me, Mr. Lu? UN%, hashtag, it muttered something that Luzioki couldn't understand at all, and then slowly stretched out its hand from the Holy Grail and crawled out. Luzioki muttered in her heart, and finally put the last fragment of the Godhead into the groove of the Holy Grail. There are 12 grooves on it, which seem to be the same size as the divine fragment. It's so mysterious. There is also this kind of operation. The problem is, even if I understand what it says, how can I communicate with it? A cute voice sounded in my heart. Who are you? Why did you wake me up? Hey. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 255. The order of 256 and 255 is reversed. There should be something wrong when Zyopija posted it, but the posted chapters cannot be deleted. Let's make do with it. Just read the next chapter first and then go back to this chapter. Pure Land is obviously such a conceptual level prop. It is precisely because of such a supermodel that she has the power to stop the invasion of evils. And this prop is really powerful. But it is intangible and has no substance. If you want it to exert its power, you must find a container to contain its power. And the Holy Court is a container that the gods found for it. As the Holy Courtyard is an immovable building, it cannot be taken away. But it is just a container. What Luzioki really wants to take away is the Pure Land. Ah, Luzioki frowned. In this case, wouldn't he have to find a building to accommodate the elves? Moreover, this building cannot be moved like the Holy Cathedral and can be taken away by him. Wait, it seems he has. Luzioki's eyes lit up. Suddenly I remembered that there was a cowhide level prop in my parcel column. It is formed by the infinite superposition and fusion of Golden City. This thing has been lying in his package for a long time. Because its role can only be exerted after it is taken out and expanded. Luzioki had been in the imperial capital before, so where was the space for him to unfold a prop the size of a city? But now that he is in this copy, isn't it just right for him to use? Thinking of this, he took out the miniature castle from his parcel column without hesitation. It is worth mentioning that this thing has its own properties that cannot be stacked or discarded. It means that if you only have this one, and you have identified Luzioki, it won't be easy for anyone to do it. Although there are still only 4 entries, they are already the limit of legendary level items. In fact, the entries themselves have surpassed the definition of legends and myths. It has the flavor of a bug level prop. The specific attributes will not be listed here. Those who have forgotten it can go back and read chapter 228 by yourself. But Luzioki still felt a little hesitant. Because he didn't know if this thing could be put away after it was unfolded. He shook the figure in his hand and said to the elf, "What do you think of this container?" The elf looked at the thing in his hand a little blankly, and after looking at it for a long time, he said slowly, "I don't know." Luzioki was speechless. If it's suitable, it's suitable. If it's not suitable, it's not suitable. I don't know what the hell it is. Perhaps seeing something wrong with his expression, the elf tilted his head and said, "This thing is not a container yet, and I don't know if it is suitable." "Isn't it a container?" Luzioki suddenly realized that it really had to be unfolded. Fine. Luzioki curled her lips. Then expand it. The next moment, Luzioki used the unknown prop in his hand. The city model in his hand flew into the air and turned into a shadow, covering a vast area. At the same time, Luzioki had an extremely complicated message in her mind. Please select the entry for your city from the following options. You can choose 9 items from the following advanced entries. The damage of units belonging to the city is increased by 5%. The health of units belonging to the city increases by 5%. The defense of units belonging to the city increases by 5%. The speed of units belonging to the city is increased by 5%. The recovery of units belonging to the city is increased by 20%. Units belonging to the city receive an additional 5% damage reduction. Units belonging to the city receive an additional 5% damage drain. The durability of buildings belonging to the city is increased by 20%. Increase the productivity of buildings belonging to the city by 20%. The scope of the buildings belonging to the city is increased by 20%. The effects of buildings belonging to the city are increased by 20%. Buildings belonging to the city have a 5% probability of being upgraded to 1 level during construction. Note, damage reduction, that is, reducing the damage taken by oneself, damage absorption, that is, the amount of one's own energy and blood restored when causing damage to the enemy. You can choose 3 of the following advanced terms. The city lord can accept the official position of the unit belonging to the city, so that it can obtain additional attribute bonuses. Specific attributes are related to the official position. Allow units belonging to the city to obtain bonding effects. Each unit will derive related bonds based on its own attributes, and will receive additional bonuses when fighting together with the same bond. Obtain 3 special building slots, and the buildings built here enjoy special attribute bonuses. I am the city. For example, for damage reduction, 1 star only reduces damage by 5%, 2 stars can reduce damage by 20%, and at the highest 3 stars, it jumps to 80%. Required. Advanced entry, 6*9. As for why Luzioki chose damage reduction instead of other. However, after understanding everything, Luzioki no longer hesitated. How can this be compared to selecting 9 1-star entries alone? 3 identical entries can be upgraded to 1 star, 9/6, which just elevates this entry to the highest level, 3 stars. The same goes for advanced terms. Obtain a superdimensional dimensional device, and the city can carry out dimensional travel. Its attributes now are: units belonging to the city receive an additional 80% damage reduction, gold, cannot be upgraded. It's a star stack. It's simple, because he prepared this entry for others, so he naturally had to choose the life-saving ability. Obtain 2 additional advanced terms, and randomly increase the effect of any advanced term by 100%. Advanced entries can be stacked repeatedly. People and city become one. Advanced terms. But this is just him, and the people around him don't have this ability. Looking at the densely packed attributes, Luzioki almost had trouble choosing. The emperor guards the gate of the country, and the king dies in the country. In fact, the improvement of a simple 1-star entry is very average. Only after upgrading the entry will there be a qualitative change. And its superposition is not as simple as 1+1. Obtain the Altar of Heroes, and units belonging to the city can be resurrected by consuming resources after they die. Didn't you expect that? To be honest, after seeing the second entry, Luzioki stopped considering other entries. This choice is the best solution. Ultimate entry. Obtain Super Magic Power Device. The city can move and obtain unlimited energy. He himself has no use at all, and with his ability, whether it is attack or defense, he is basically at full capacity. The emperor guards the gate of the country, and the king dies in the country. You and your city become one and will never be separated. You can choose one of the following ultimate terms. All units and buildings in the city will be upgraded by one level. There is only one final entry. What the hell are you afraid of not being able to take with you? Obtains Hitch territory. Within the coverage of the territory, everything is invincible and cannot fight. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 256. Luzioki's question was answered after hearing the voice in her heart. He was self-taught and knew how to communicate with elves. He used his mind to appeal to the wonderful existence in his heart and conveyed his thoughts. Hello, little sister, do you want to go see the goldfish with Shushu? The elf opened his big innocent and ignorant eyes and tilted his head to look at the young man who was trying to kidnap him. What is a goldfish? Luzioki looked at its innocent face and felt a sense of guilt for no reason in her heart. She quickly said, that's not important. What's important is, are you willing to go out and play with me? Why should I go out to play with you? The elf's eyes are twinkling. It looks so cute, especially its wonderful height. Luzioki always feels like holding it in his hand for fear of falling, and holding it in his mouth. The feeling of being afraid of spending money. Luzioki suddenly understood King Kong's feelings. Know why it is a giant beast but is willing to climb to the Empire State Building and masturbate for the sake of weak humans. The feeling of Thumbelina is so lovely. Because of me, Shushu, I have more wealth and more than billions, Luzioki said to the elf in a coaxing way with a weird smile on his face. Why, don't you believe it? Now, listen up. Ahem. Luzioki took out the microphone as if by magic, put the speaker on the ground, cleared her throat, and started performing. The chorus of Digimon Butterfly slowly sounded. Will you recall tomorrow the diary you wrote yesterday? Will you still miss me tomorrow? The teachers can no longer remember you who cried the most. Who married you, who is sentimental, who read your diary, who tied up your long hair, who made you a wedding dress. I used to be very careful and asked me to borrow half an eraser. You also accidentally said that you liked to be with me. Same. Table. You may not believe it, but the speaker and microphone that Luzioki took out were also a set of props. It's one of the props he exploded from a certain cyberpunk world. It is just a high-quality product with two attributes. The first one is to increase the appeal of the voice and improve the singing skills. The second attribute is that it can play the music that one has listened to. Luzioki thought it was interesting and kept it. When she tried it today, it was a blockbuster. His voice is already good, his foundation is very good, and his Jinden level cultivation is also a good blessing in this aspect, coupled with the cooperation of props. This song Evolved Deskmates is passionate and intoxicating. Medusa's eyes sparkled, and she obviously didn't expect that the man she loved was so talented. The elf flapped its wings involuntarily upon hearing this. Although it doesn't understand the meaning of the lyrics, the passionate music and soulful singing skills can still impress others. For a moment, the elf's heart was moved, but after thinking about it, it still shook its head with difficulty. No, I will get hungry if I stay outside for a long time. If Luzioki could hear such beautiful music every day and see more interesting things, he would not object to going out. But it got hungry very quickly. If it wasn't to resist hunger, why did it fall into this endless sleep? If there is not enough food, even if it goes out, it will just change a place to sleep, so why does it go out? I can't go with you unless you still have this for me to eat. The elf pointed at the fragment of the godhead embedded in the Holy Grail. Its food is exactly that. When Luzioki heard this, she thought, I have this, I have plenty of it. Hi 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 hi. You've told me that I'm rich and you still don't believe it? Luzioki took out a handful of divine fragments without hesitation and asked, "Is this what you are talking about?" The elf's eyes suddenly lit up. It flapped its wings, left the Holy Grail for the first time, and flew into Luzioki's hand. To be precise, it flew into the pile of divine fragments in Luzioki's hand. This guy is still a foodie. Luzioki looked at Medusa, who also shook her head with a confused look on her face, obviously not aware of this matter. Seeing its stupidity, Luzioki was also happy, but she still deliberately said with a straight face, "You can eat it if you want, but you have to accept me as your master and go out with me. Beyond the three realms is not in the five elements. The consequences could be disastrous. The treasure that Hephaestus devoted all his efforts to create is called the Pure Land." But this time, he was blocked by the air wall formed by Luzioki using his own magic power. This scene made Luzioki's mouth twitch. In the blink of an eye, all the divine fragments in Luzioki's hand disappeared into the elf's mouth. This little guy has really good teeth. This apparently extremely hard divine fragment actually looked like a bare biscuit under its mouth, and it chewed it into its belly. The place where the gods sleep and where the monsters guard is also this Pure Land. Feeling the voice coming from the bottom of his heart, Luzioki raised his eyebrows. She touched her round belly and looked at Luzioki eagerly, at and %Yuan. It put its hands on its waist and looked up at Luzioki. "It's not bad to go with you, but you have to prepare my container." The elf bumped into this soft wall of air, holding his head in his hands and looking at the empty front with a puzzled expression. And such an awesome treasure actually exceeds the scope of the rules. The little elves are the weapon spirits of the Pure Land. And he's also a picky eater. Strange to say. Ouch, it picked up a piece of divine fragment and bit it without hesitation. Container, Luzioki was a little surprised. The two appear to be the same thing, but they are not at all. He didn't seem to know what he had just hit. The elf pursed his lips, seeming a little aggrieved, but as a simple-minded elf, he still kept his word. After telling Luzioki to provide food, he followed Luzioki and did what he said. The elf danced and explained to Luzioki for a long time, and finally Luzioki understood. Oops. The container is. What container? You didn't say anything about it before. Luzioki grabbed another handful from the parcel column. Any more? It turns out that the Holy Court is the Holy Court and the Pure Land is the Pure Land. If she hugged him and moaned like this. Seeing more divine fragments than before, the elf couldn't help but smile, and then rushed towards Luzioki's other hand. What's the saying? Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 257. After waiting for Luzioki to make his choice, the huge city that originally shrouded the snowy area disappeared with a whoosh. But Luzioki knew that it didn't actually disappear, but entered Luzioki's body. He and Luzioki have truly become one. Luzioki can now clearly check the properties of the city. But before he could check, the elf's eyes lit up, then he flapped his wings and rushed towards Luzioki happily. Luzioki originally planned to reach out and catch it. As a result, as soon as his hand touched the elf, the guy melted and got directly into Luzioki's body. As the elf entered Luzioki's body, the outside environment began to change drastically. Everything around him is disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Luzioki looked at Medusa next to her and found that her body was gradually fading. She was not surprised at all by this. She had a faint smile on her face and looked at Luzioki softly. She opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something, but before she could say anything, she disappeared. The situation is changing. Almost instantly, Luzioki retreated from the snowy scene. The colors around her were flowing, and there seemed to be strong energy fluctuations around her. When he came to his senses again, he had appeared in a dilapidated courtyard. It can be seen that this courtyard was originally supposed to be very luxurious, surrounded by buildings carved from huge piles of stones. It's a pity that it has been weathered into disgrace now. The area that looks like a pool has dried up. There is a stone statue in the center of the pool, but this stone statue has also been broken into several pieces and scattered on the ground. The trees next to the yard are also dead. There is a huge tree in the middle of the yard, but this tree has been cut down, and only the stump remains in place. The dense growth rings on it seem to be telling something. This should be what the holy court originally looked like. Luzioki pursed her lips and shook her head slightly. He originally wanted to visit the place where the gods once stayed, but a sense of urgent crisis enveloped him. Luzioki was so frightened that the hairs on her hair stood on end, and the blood in her whole body was almost congealed. If you stay any longer, you will die. And it is death in the true sense of the word. The kind that was completely obliterated. Luzioki's heart was beating wildly, knowing that he must have noticed something strange here and arrived. Without hesitation, he immediately took out the golden cicada escape talisman. Use. The talisman turned into a flame. Crack. The current copy immediately shattered. Luzioki flew out of the dungeon under the protection of a mysterious force. In a blink of an eye, the person had already landed outside the dungeon gate. Hoo ho ho. He was panting heavily and sweating profusely. This is a serious life and death speed. The ups and downs of life came so fast, it was so exciting that it left him breathless. This also made him realize that with his current strength, he was not worth mentioning in front of the other party. He didn't even meet in person, and just the thought of him staying in the dungeon and paying attention to the holy court could make him breathless. If he hadn't escaped in time, he might even have died on the spot. It can be seen how obvious the gap between Luzioki and the mastermind behind this is. Fortunately, he has successfully escaped back to his own world. And it is obvious that he cannot enter before he completes his invasion of the world. Luzioki's life was saved. Thinking of this, Luzioki took a long breath and glanced at the black hole-like entrance to the dungeon. She seemed to be frightened and hurriedly left the dimensional gate. After leaving the dimensional gate, Luzioki finally settled down and was able to check the properties of the city attached to the elf. Prismatic. This city has the following characteristics. Units belonging to the city increase their attack by 500, defense by 300, speed by 30, and health by 2000, basic attributes, 1 star. All buildings in this city will never wear out, basic attribute, 3 stars. Spells released within the city will be absorbed by the city, their power will be reduced by 99.99%, and converted into pure energy to charge the city, basic attribute, 3 stars. All units gain an additional 80% damage reduction, advanced attribute, 3 stars. Units belonging to the city gain the bonding effect, advanced attributes, 1 star. Acquire 3 special building slots, buildings built here enjoy special attribute bonuses, advanced attributes, 1 star. Acquire additional buildings, Altar of Heroes, units belonging to the city can be resurrected by consuming resources after they die, advanced attributes, 1 star. The Emperor guards the gate of the country, the king dies in the country, and the user and the city become one. The attributes of the city and the city lord strengthen each other and can move with the city lord, ultimate attribute, 1 star. Due to unknown power, this city has the following additional special effects. Units belonging to the city will permanently gain attribute blessings after killing enemy units. The units belonging to the city will enter a special scene when fighting. In the scene, our units will receive additional ability blessings. The city has the following units. Medusa, 2 stars, expand to see detailed attributes. Chimera, 2 stars, expand to see detailed attributes. Minotaur, 2 stars, expand to view detailed attributes. Odyssey, 2 stars, expand to view detailed attributes. Ampusa, 2 stars, expand to view detailed attributes. Hydra, 2 stars, expand to view detailed attributes. Cerberus, 2 stars, expand to see detailed attributes. Siren, 2 stars, expand to see detailed attributes. The city has the following buildings. Altar of Heroic Spirits, 1 star, expand to see detailed attributes. Energy Pool, 1 star, expand to see detailed attributes. Core Hub, 1 star, expand to view detailed attributes. City Wall, 1 star, expand to view detailed attributes. Watchtower, 1 star, expand to view detailed properties. Fort, 1 star, expand to see detailed attributes. City Gate, 1 star, expand to see detailed attributes. City Lord's Mansion, 1 star, expand to see detailed attributes. This city has 108 building slots, 3 special building slots. Resources, 0. Energy, 0. Population, 9. City Spirit, Elf, expand to view detailed attributes. Due to unknown forces, the city has received additional blessing effects. Units belonging to the city will obtain the Holy Cloth, 1 star will obtain the Bronze Saint Cloth, 2 stars will obtain the Silver Saint Cloth, 3 stars will obtain the Gold Saint Cloth, and 4 stars will obtain the Holy Cloth. The city is blessed with divine power and cannot be invaded by external evil forces. This blessing can be applied to units belonging to the city. The city cannot be upgraded by consuming resources, but the buildings and units of the city can be upgraded by consuming the power of the Godhead, and the upper limit is increased to 4 stars. Derived from unknown forces, the city can now build more buildings. Derived from unknown power, the city can now recruit more heroes. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 258. I knock. But I am uneducated, so I can conquer the world with just WC. Luzioki's eyes almost dropped. This city was originally only a legendary item. Although it was already orange to red and was almost half a step away from reaching the mythical level, it was still a legendary item after all. After the elf entered, his attributes skyrocketed. A qualitative change occurred all of a sudden. How many entries are there, how awesome the effects are, Luzioki doesn't need to mention these. He only needs to say a few words and everyone will understand. The font used for the information displayed by this prop is prismatic. If you don't understand what prism is, refer to the picture below. Picture coming. What does that mean? Still do not know? Let me tell you this. Luzioki now only has one prop in her hand that is the same color as it. That's right, it's the 5-color sacred stone. This prop, oh, no, this treasure is already on the same level as the 5-color sacred stone. How could this not shock Luzioki? But it's right to think about it. After all, it is a treasure created by gathering the entire world, and it is more than enough to match the level of a myth. Needless to say, the enhanced attributes brought by the city go without saying. Luzioki is now more curious about the attributes of the 8 monsters that were automatically brought here by the elf and belong to the city. As for why there are 8, Luzioki can figure it out. Didn't the gods resurrect a total of 10 monsters to protect the Pure Land? After 2 were killed by Luzioki, there were naturally only 8 left. But if you think about it this way, there is something vaguely wrong. If the elf brought all the things from the Pure Land, where have the gods sleeping in the Pure Land gone? This is what Luzioki is confused about. Putting this aside for now, he first checked the attributes of the monsters. The first thing he looked at was Medusa. Medusa 2-star unit. Goddess. Maturity period. Innate ability, power of curse. Bonds, Snake Witch, Guard, Spellcaster. Basic attack, 48,596, basic defense, 33,747, Vitality, 4736,950/4736,950, Magic Power, 578592/578592. Skill Bar. The other attributes were nothing. Luzioki's main concern was the bonding effect brought by the city entry. He carefully checked the bond effect. Snake Witch, one Snake Witch will cause a fear effect on the enemy when using skills, weakening all attributes of all enemy units by 20%, can be superimposed. Guard, 2/4/8 When fighting in the city, the guard can improve the defense of all its own units on the field by 1000/2000/5000, and provide itself with a health value equal to 20%/30% of the unit's health every quarter of an hour/50% shield. Conjurer, 3/6 transfer 10%/30% of the damage taken by yourself to all enemy units. The number in parentheses after the bond indicates how many units are required to activate the effect. For example, the Snake Witch only needs one unit to have the Snake Witch bond to be effective, while the spellcaster requires more than 3 units to have the spellcaster bond to be activated, and the highest fetter effect is 6/3 spells. The effect of the magician is to transfer 10% of the damage taken by oneself to all enemy units. The bond of the 6 magicians is to transfer 30% of the damage taken by oneself to all enemy units. Refer to LOL's teamfight tactics. Luzioki thought about it for a while and roughly understood what was going on. Needless to say, the Snake Witch is Medusa's own bond, the guard is equivalent to the camp bond, and the magician is the professional bond. As for how the bond of guarding, a camp that has little to do with Medusa, came about, Luzioki guessed that it was because she was given the task of guarding the Pure Land by the gods after she was resurrected, so she formed the bond of guarding the camp. The Conjurer is Medusa's own characteristic, attacking enemies through spells. Luzioki then checked the attributes of several other monsters. What he expected was true. Other monsters all had a guardian in their bonds, but other bonds were different. Then does he also. Dodge, 684. Abnormal Resistance, combined 3730, Hell's Curse and Son of Heaven's tenfold bonus. Defense, 576,490, Hell's Curse and the power of the four poles and equipment special effects plus 10 times the defense of the Son of Heaven. Damage saving throw, 433, Hell Damned. The most precious Yiza. He is the owner of the city, so he is also a member of the city, right? Hydra, Sirens, and Medusa all have a spellcaster bond. City Lord, 1. You can get the effect bonus of any bond when you and other units appear on the field, the number of all bonds will be increased by 1. Spell Resistance, combined 64, Power of the Four Poles. Even if these monsters go alone, they still enjoy the bonus of a bond. And it's also a top-level bonding effect. If he remembered correctly. The Minotaur and the Hydra share an undead bond. The Chosen One, all friendly units gain 20% all-powerful blood-sucking, automatically recover 300 points of vitality and blood per second, and gain a shield based on lost health when they are near death. Chi and Blood, 35967/35967, recovery speed 451/s. Character, Luzioki. Physical attack, 289,720, 10 times the weapon power of God's Hand and Hell Curse and the power of the four poles and equipment special effects. After figuring this out, Luzioki was stunned again. In this way, the following star ratings will be easier to explain. But one thing is clear, these monsters have an independent bond that is different from others, such as Medusa Snake Witch. That is to say, critical hit, 100%, probability, 30%, damage. Phetian's own critical hit needs to be triggered after entering the attack state. The critical hit chance here is only the double effect of the critical hit of Hell's Curse and Phetian's Kendo. In terms of team fight tactics, mana, 234769/234769, recovery speed 6174/s. The recovery power is stacked with the power of the 4 poles. It is too difficult to stack the energy and blood because there are too few monsters that can break his defense. Hit, 85,680, power of the 4 poles. Life Master, 1 each time your unit releases a skill, it will permanently increase 1 point of attack power, 1 point of defense power, 1 point of speed, 5 points of health and mana. What does that mean? Spell attack, 215,639, no weapon attributes, only Hell Curse plus 4 pole power and equipment special effects. Bonds, City Lord, Chosen One, Fate Master. 3 speeds, 5,943%, attack speed, 5,943%, movement speed, 5,642%, release, Hell's Curse. Luzaoki was even more dazzled by the other bonds. One is the strength represented by the monster itself, how many fees, and the other is the level of the monster, how many stars. These monsters are all 5-cost cards. Top card. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 259. Hiss. Lou took a deep breath and made an outstanding contribution to global warming again after half a year. What is the level of his bond? It's all an independent bond. Without further ado, let's take a look at the first bond, City Lord. Obtain all bond effects, and the number of all bonds on the field add 1 when appearing on the field. What's the meaning? Take Medusa for example. When there is only Medusa on the field, the bonds are, Snake Witch, 1/1, Guard, 1/2, Spellcaster, 1/3. In other words, she only enjoyed the bond of the Snake Witch, and the other 2 bonds could not be activated due to insufficient numbers. But when Luzaoki appeared on the court, the bond changed. Became a Snake Witch, 2/1, a Guard, 2/2, and a Spellcaster, 2/3. This means that Luzaoki and Medusa can enjoy the effects of the 2 bonds of Snake Witch and Guard at the same time. This is not enough, now there is another monster on the field. Hydra, Bond, Undead, Guard, Spellcaster. Then the bond on the field becomes Snake Witch, 2/1, Undead, 2/1, Guard, 3/2, Spellcaster, 3/3. And Luzaoki also enjoys the blessings of the 4 bonds of Snake Witch, Undead, Guard and Magician. This is the horror of the City Lord bond. Although it is just 1 bond, having it means having countless bonds. How many bonds there are on the field, how many blessings Luzaoki can get. It's just plain bullshit. And this is just the effect of one of Luzaoki's bonds. Let's look at the second bond, the Chosen One. All units gain 20% all-powerful blood stealing, automatically recover 300 points of health every second, and gain a shield based on their lost health when they are on the verge of death. This does not have any requirements for your own units. In other words, even if you are a Walmart shopping bag, as long as you stand on this site, you will be blessed by the Chosen One who binds you. Similarly, the more people in this bond, the more exaggerated the benefits will be. For example, if 1 unit is improved by about 25%, wouldn't 10 units be equivalent to a 250% improvement? Rounding off, wouldn't that be a direct increase of 100 million? Of course, the actual algorithm is definitely not calculated like this. Here it is just an exaggerated way to reflect the relationship between the role of this bond and the number of people. Anyway, it's just 1 word. Invincible. Reaching the last fetter, Life Master. Each time your unit releases a skill, it will permanently increase 1 point of attack power, 1 point of defense power, 1 point of speed, 5 points of vitality and mana. This bond seems more plain and simple than the two above. But this does not mean that this bond is not powerful. On the contrary, this talent is simply like a heifer standing on his head, the cow coins are soaring into the sky. Pay attention to the key words, every release, permanent increase. What's the meaning? This means unlimited growth. With this bond, even 1 fee cards have the possibility to counter-attack 5 fee cards. Just give it time to develop. Although it only adds 1 point of attack, defense, speed, 5 points of vitality and mana, what do people mean? Every time you release the skill, it will increase. After a battle, if my acting skills are better and I let go of thousands of skills, wouldn't that just permanently increase the number of panels by thousands? Isn't this improvement scary enough? The most important thing is that this improvement can also be enjoyed by all your own units. The principle is the same as the second bond, the more people there are, the greater the benefits. Luzaoki has been having a headache. That is, as his strength increases, the gap between his friends and relatives, crossed out, wife, and him will become wider and wider. And with this bond, combined with Shangqing's ability, their growth will naturally become limitless. Being poor cares themselves, being wealthy cares the world. Although Luzaoki is not that great and can help the whole world, he still has the consciousness that one person can ascend to heaven. And now, he undoubtedly has such ability. After reading the bonds, Luzaoki's attention was focused on the city's buildings. Needless to say, the Altar of Heroes is one of the entries he chose. Its function and purpose are relatively clear, and the other buildings are undoubtedly the city itself, that is, the buildings that come with this treasure. He wasn't quite sure about the functions of these buildings, so he happened to take a closer look at them at this moment. Altar of Heroes, Special Building, 1 star, Quantity, 1/1. Resurrect the units belonging to the city by sacrificing resources. Dash. Please upgrade to 2 stars to activate. Dash. Please upgrade to Samsung for activation. Dash. Please upgrade to 4 stars to activate. Energy Pool, Basic Building, 1 star, Quantity, 1/1. Infrastructure for storing energy. Dash. Please upgrade to 2 stars to activate. Dash. Please upgrade to Samsung for activation. Dash. Please upgrade to 4 stars to activate. Core Hub, Core Building, 1 star, Quantity, 1/1. Control the city's hub building, and control it to control all the city's facilities. Dash. Please upgrade to 2 stars to activate. Dash. Please upgrade to Samsung for activation. Dash. Please upgrade to 4 stars to activate. City Wall, Basic Building, 1 star, Quantity, 4/4. The basic defense building of the city. Units placed on the city wall receive an additional attribute blessing of add 10% defense and add 2 attack range. Watchtower, Infrastructure, 1 star, Quantity, 4/4. A basic building for observing the enemy's situation. Units placed in the watchtower receive additional attribute blessings of add 5 vision and add 3 attack range. Dash. Please upgrade to 2 stars to activate. Dash. Please upgrade to Samsung for activation. Dash. Please upgrade to 4 stars to activate. Fort, Infrastructure, 1 star, Quantity, 12/12. The city's basic attack facilities are controlled by the core hub and can automatically attack, requiring energy consumption. Dash. Please upgrade to 2 stars to activate. Dash. Please upgrade to Samsung for activation. Dash. Please upgrade to 4 stars to activate. City Gate, Infrastructure, 1 star, Quantity, 4/4. The city's basic defense facilities are controlled by the core hub and can be turned on and off automatically, requiring energy consumption. Dash. Please upgrade to 2 stars to activate. Dash. Please upgrade to Samsung for activation. Dash. Please upgrade to 4 stars to activate. City Lord's Mansion, infrastructure, 1 star, quantity, 1/1. The command center of the city can provide shelter for the core hub. When the City Lord is in the City Lord's palace, the orders issued can be instantly transmitted to any place in the city. Dash. Please upgrade to 2 stars to activate. Dash. Please upgrade to Samsung for activation. Dash. Please upgrade to 4 stars to activate. Global copy, my talent is called Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Author, Crying Boy Has Bad Luck. Chapter 260. Attributes are average. Luzioki frowned slightly, feeling a little disappointed. But then he burst into laughter again. Maybe this is the attribute that a city prop should have. It's just that the attributes of this super mythical city were too amazing before, which made him feel uncomfortable after seeing the ordinary attributes behind it. It is difficult for people to be truly satisfied. When you have no equipment, you will want to give me a weapon, even an ordinary level weapon. However, when you actually get the weapon, you will think to yourself, oh my, I still need one less set of armor. I haven't gathered all the jewelry yet. Why is it an ordinary grade, why not a fine or rare grade? Repeatedly, insatiably greedy. The same goes for Luzioki. In the beginning, this prop was just a legendary city, one step away from being a myth. On the contrary, Luzioki didn't have high expectations in her heart, and she just had a try attitude towards it. The entries that came out were better than the last. Especially when the Pure Land is combined with it, it jumps from a legendary item to a super mythical item, and its properties can directly change your destiny. Needless to say, Luzioki's mood at this time went without saying. I was surprised and delighted, especially after reading its entries one by one. I have even higher expectations for its architectural properties. As a result, at first glance, I was disappointed with the properties of this building, and it was inevitable that I would be a little embarrassed. However, Luzioki also had a very good character and quickly realized something was wrong and immediately adjusted. At this time, a cute voice came into Luzioki's heart. What are you looking at outside? Come in. This voice belongs to an elf. Luzioki was stunned. Come in? How to get in? This city has become one with me, which is equivalent to being within my body. How do I get in? Do I enter myself? He was a little confused and quickly conveyed his doubts to the elf through his thoughts. Hey, you're so stupid. Just listening to the tone, Luzioki seemed to have an image of the elf pouting and mumbling these words in his mind. His young face turned red, and he felt that it was a bit embarrassing to be despised by the elf in this matter. But before he could say anything more, a message was transmitted from the elf to Luzioki's mind. Luzioki's spirit was so powerful that she easily digested the message, and then suddenly realized how to enter oneself. Simply put, there are 2 methods. One is to release the city, which is simple and crude. But Luzioki was now in the busy city of Imperial Capital, so this method was obviously not advisable. But if he met an enemy in the future, he would be interested in trying this trick. The 2 sides were facing each other. Luzioki suddenly shouted loudly, jumped up high and gave the enemy a city blow in the head. A huge city appeared out of thin air and suppressed the enemy on the spot. That picture, not to mention how beautiful it is. Just thinking about it makes me feel happy. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't dare to do this even if they also had the city props. After all, the city itself is durable. If it is damaged, it will be finished. But the city of Luzioki is different. Do you want to know about it? Apart from this simple and crude way, Of course there is a second way. That is, in the case of merging, Luzaoki was able to do two things: separate one mind and enter the city to condense the clones. Because he is the city lord, the city lord has unimaginable power in the city. You have never heard of a song that says, "In my territory, you have to listen to me and harvest the music." Ahem, cough, cough, the director just cut out the last sentence. This probably means that as long as he uses his mind to control the city, he will be almost invincible within the city. All Sunyao warriors can only be treated like little Karami in front of him. Not to mention condensing clones, it is easy to change the day. But it's still the same sentence: the stronger your ability, the greater your ability. Pooh. That's wrong. Although Luzaoki's ability in the city is powerful, it is not without limitations. This limitation is the extent of his control over the city. The higher the degree of control, the more terrifying the abilities he has in the city. Let's put this aside. Because this control level must be gradually improved, but for now, it is easy for him to gather a clone in the city. Following the method given by the elf, Luzaoki's consciousness entered a magical realm, and a vast city appeared in front of him. Everything in the city is also under his eyes. There are 4 towering city walls, and sharp watchtowers stand at the corners of the city walls. There are 3 forts on each wall, but the forts are empty and empty. There was a fort, but Luzaoki had to find a way to use the cannon. But this is not a problem for Luzaoki. He has downloaded countless copies and collected a lot of siege-level equipment, but he has never put it to use. No, it will be useful now. It is even said that there are only 3 turrets on one wall, which is a bit too few for Luzaoki, who can stack them infinitely. How can 3 turrets be enough? The foreigners at the next table looked at it and thought that I, Luzaoki, was too poor to afford defense facilities. I told you a number and you did it for me. 1 wall, 99 forts. Ahem, there is a slight deviation, but it does not affect Daiju. Luzaoki restrained her divergent thoughts and soon saw Medusa wandering in the empty city. Maybe she was in a new environment and she was not used to it at the moment. Luzaoki's mind moved, and she instantly appeared in front of Medusa. Countless light points condensed into human shapes and transformed into Luzaoki's appearance. When Medusa saw this scene, she was a little wary at first, but when she found out it was Luzaoki, she couldn't help but put down all her guard and showed a gentle smile. "You're here." Her voice was slightly cheerful and she seemed to be in a good mood. Luzaoki nodded. "You come with me." The two of them walked on the wide street, and Luzaoki secretly used the authority of the city lord. With his current level of mastery, he can just use the ability, shrink the ground into an inch. Of course, this ability is not called by this name. To be precise, Luzaoki just obtained this ability and knew its effect. There was no specific name for it. However, the function of this ability coincided with the name, which was very appropriate, so Luzaoki directly used it as the name for his city lord authority. Once the ability was activated, the space around the two people seemed to be folded. In just a few steps, they reached their destination, the city lord's mansion.